Hey, welcome into the REVO Church Podcast. I'm Jamie. I'm the host of the podcast. And if you clicked on this video, you've already read the title, but this is episode 5 of Spiritual Disciplines. And so far, we have looked at what is a spiritual discipline. We've looked at Bible reading. We looked at Bible study, and we talked about how Bible reading and Bible study are different. And then last week, we talked about prayer. And so if you're on this video, you stumbled across it and you have not looked at any of those, you haven't watched them, you don't know what Bible study or Bible prayer is, you don't know the difference between them, or maybe you're like, prayer, that piques my interest. Go pause this video and go check those out. I personally think that they're all very good, but I'm excited about today because today we're actually going to be talking about serving. And so if you don't know, serving is seeking Jesus. It's seeking to glorify him. Spiritual disciplines are a tool really to help us get to God, to help us get to the Creator and to glorify him more. We don't get to God through our works. God comes to us. But they're a way that we can really know him more and serve him and glorify him. Spiritual disciplines are meant to help us really learn more about who he is. And so today we're going to be talking about serving, and I am joined with a guy who honestly probably needs no introduction. It's John Wood. You've probably seen him. If you go to South Fork, you see him working with the students. You see him in production. You see him moving all the buttons and looking like a wizard. He also comes to North Campus. He comes to Walkertown, serving in production. He's all over. It's the man, the myth, the legend, the John. I'm excited to have you on.
Man, is there another John Wood in the building? Is it just me?
It's just you.
Oh, all right. Well, okay. Sorry.
I'm excited.
No, thanks, man. Yeah.
So we're talking about serving because when I thought about serving, there's one guy that pops in my head, and it's the John Wood. John is the man that serves in many areas. And when we're talking about serving, we're gonna frame all of this around the verse. It's 1 Peter 4, 10 and 11. 1 Peter 4 says this: just as each one has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of the varied grace of God. Verse 11, whoever speaks, let it be with God's words. Whoever serves, do so with the strength that God supplies, so that in everything God will be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belongs the glory and the power forever and ever. So Peter is speaking, and he's looking at Christians, he's looking at believers, and he says that each believer has been given a gift. That you've been given a gift, an ability, and that we are to use those to glorify God.
Yeah.
So when I think about that, and I think about you as serving, I'm just curious, right off the top, how did you know that you were good at serving?
Man, well, really, it was like people in my life pointing me in the right direction and encouraging me to use the skills that they saw in me. It might have been gifts that I didn't even see myself, or maybe I was like not confident in. But really, man, just having that good group of friends and family who really were like, hey man, like you should step up in this area. And a lot of times, like for me, I know it's just like, I don't want to because I'm going to fail. But like you just read, man, like our strength comes from God and our gifts come from God. So if we obey him and his will, like he's not going to let us down in that area of our lives. So like, for example, like students, I never in a million years thought I would stand up in front of students and talk, it was always that thing of like, man, I'm going to stutter or something and they're just going to straight up bully me. But no, man, like they've been very receptive, and it's actually given me the ability to like grow as well. So, yeah, so like to answer your question, man, just having people around me who support me and man, get a good group of friends, get a good group of the family around you, and
I like
help
that.
encourage you.
You talked about students and speaking, and you were afraid like, man, if I started speaking, I'm gonna mess up.
Yeah.
Just get ruthless. I work with students. They're ruthless.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like what blessings do you think you've seen from like your time serving both in students and production, and even just serving outside because you're part of our groups. Our groups go and you serve the community. Like, what's some blessings you've seen from just serving?
Dude, how long do you have? Like, do we have an hour?
We got an hour.
Like, oh, okay.
As long as this video lasts.
No, just to rattle off a couple, man, like beginning with students, just seeing how I relate so much with the students and how much I see myself in where they were at, like at their age, and seeing how, like, man, at that age, I was having the same exact questions. Yeah. And now I can actually answer and help in those questions. Yeah. And so, like, having that blessing of leadership and having that blessing of knowledge and being able to say, like, hey, like, whatever you're going through, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to make it through it. It's not that, it's not that crazy. But also just like building relationships with the kids. At church, it's actually a part of production too. It's a blessing because at church, Sunday morning, I'll be sitting there and the kids will run in the production booth wanting to learn how to run the board, wanting to learn how to run the slides and all that. So it's like, okay, cool. And so,
let's show you how.
Yeah. So, as far as production goes, man, like for me, I've never been a big worshiper. Like I've always been one to go to church, okay, let's get through the songs and let's get to the sermon, which isn't like necessarily a bad thing, but I think it was a huge part of my life that I was missing was worship, and being able to get involved and push some faders and some slides up and down, push some buttons, like that still made me so like into the music and so into like, okay, like what are we talking about? Like, what are the lyrics actually speaking
about? Like the
about?
songs we're singing,
exactly.
What do they mean?
Like, it's crazy to think that now, if you go to South Fork, you probably see me rocking back there and stuff. And a lot of times, like the lyrics will hit me, man, and I'll be brought to tears a little bit.
Yeah.
So like, it's been a blessing to have that in my life that opens up my heart to be more receptive to the word that's about to be spoken. And then our group, man, like being able to serve out in the community, which I think is probably the most important and critical part of serving, is being able to go out to the community and serve people who don't know Jesus, who may have heard Jesus, and, they've heard Jesus from somebody who was just like, hey, like if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to go to hell. And that's all they ever hear is like, okay, this guy like just wants.
The only thing they know is they've only ever heard about a Christian who is trying to hit somebody over the head with the Bible.
Yeah. And so instead of doing that, hey, let me come serve you.
Yeah.
Let me put myself last and put you first, and let me show you how important you are and how much more important you are to the Creator, to Jesus.
I like that. It makes me think, Jesus talked and he talked about a lot of things. He said a lot of things. But one thing that he said was, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and be the ransom for many. That, we look at Jesus's life and his ministry and everything that he did, and his entire life was dedicated to serving people, to seeking to help people, to help them move forward in their life, to move forward in their relationships. You mentioned it, the verse, the first will be last and the last will be first.
Yeah.
It's again instilling that idea of we should be serving, we should be seeking to help people. Reading the verse in 1 Peter 4, he talks about how when we serve, we're doing that so that everything in God will be glorified through Jesus Christ, that we're doing everything to glorify God. Yeah. That our serving is not meant to puff up John Wood.
Right.
Like, as great of a servant as you are, as much as you do, it's not to puff you up. It's doing it for the glory of God. It's doing it to bring him that praise. So a question for you is when you're serving, how can you keep that the main focus?
Yeah. So for the longest time, shameless plug, our REVO student YouTube channel. We actually go over our testimonies, and I mentioned this part in my testimony.
We can link that.
Yeah, we'll link that. But a part of that was like when I was growing up, like I just played the religious part. Like let me just check the box, make sure, my face was seen and that people know that I was there and that they see that I'm a good person, that I'm doing all these things. And now, like, 12 years later, 13, 14 years later now, like it's more of, man, like I don't deserve any glory. Like it's all God. It's all God. Like God brought me through my darkest times. God has brought Abby through her darkest times. God has brought all of us out of our darkest times. And so like he deserves the glory and praise.
Yeah.
And let me just play what little part I can to bring glory to him, to help people see hope, to see who Jesus is and the love that's there. So the question, which I already forgot. What was the question?
You kind of already answered it, but it's just the question of, when you're serving, how can you make glorifying God like the main goal?
Yeah. So to go on that specifically, obviously put away yourself, because there would be a lot of times when I have to go serve and it's like, I don't really want to. Like, I don't really want to go today.
It's 6 a.m.
It's 6 a.m. I don't want to get up
till 10.
Exactly. But for me, like when you get up and you pray and you say, God, like use me, it changes your mindset. Like it changes the way you perceive it. And you're going not to serve yourself, but to serve God, to bring glory to God. So I would say pray, man. Like it's a huge thing that I missed out in my life and I'm still working on is praying.
Yeah.
And dude, it's huge.
So one thing that I work at the church, but I serve in a couple different capacities, student ministry, our groups, guest services, all that. But one thing that I always enjoy is while I'm serving, like Casey's right there with me.
Yeah.
Casey's serving while I'm plugging away at students, like beating my head against the brick wall because I'm trying to get these students to just like open their Bible one time.
Yeah.
I can look over and know that like Casey is doing the exact same thing. Like, she's beating her head against the wall, trying to get her girls to like just see that Jesus is answering her problems. And so like one thing I've always enjoyed is being able to serve with my wife because I mean, I love you, but man, she's best friend.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
the ability to be able to serve with her and for both of us to be moving to use what God has given us, the gifts, our abilities, and to use all of that to try to reach and serve his kingdom and to bring him glory in our strength has been something that I've always enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to just take a second because if they don't know, Abby also serves.
Yeah.
You'll see Abby. She'll be singing from stage. She will be serving in student ministry.
Yeah.
Outside of that, she tries to hide. She tries to hide behind John as John talks and has the attention on him. I would love to give you a second to just talk about how like what serving has done for both of you and in your relationship together and how you're able to, as a couple you serve and how, what that looks like, how that helps your relationship, how you can glorify God. I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey of y'all serving together.
Absolutely. Like that was a big part of our lives is to serve together. And like, the reason why she doesn't talk afterwards is she grinds it out, man. Yeah. So she's like, hey, I need to take a nap. No, I'm kidding. But so for us, like growing up, my parents set that foundation of like, hey, like God's going to take care of us. We know how good we have it. And, I didn't grow up all, we had struggles growing up, but my parents always reminded us, hey, things may look bad, but look out on the streets. Look at all the people who don't have a home, who don't have a family, who don't have friends, who are going hungry, who are cold, living outside. Like, you don't have it that bad. Use what you have to serve somebody. And so having that early on, like instilled in me and even Abby, like her parents, raised their kids to serve. Like, hey, you have it good. Yeah. Now go serve somebody. That's good. And the shout out to her parents and to my parents. Like they set that foundation. So whenever we got together, we knew like, hey, not only are we going to go to church, but we're going to find a way to serve. And not in a million years would have thought it's the way that we're doing it now. we were thinking more like, here's a brochure, But no, so like it's been a blessing, man, to be able to leave church and like our conversations will be like, can you believe that like I missed a note, or can you believe that I missed this fader and I made it way too loud and the drums came in and everybody was shaking because the bass was too loud? Like we can have conversations around church and around Jesus. And even with students being like, can you believe so-and-so said this? Like, man, that was so funny, but at the same time, kind of dark. But like, it's just been a huge blessing to be able to serve and to have the same, like the like-mindedness of wanting to serve others. And man, like her love for Jesus encourages me every day too. You know, sometimes I'll just be like, man, I don't want to serve. And she's like, hey, get up. It's time to go. And it's like, dang, if you're going, like, I gotta go. So like having that accountability too is awesome. So
one thing that I always think, like you talk to people about serving. I'm the discipleship pastor now, but before then I was the next step pastor, and some of the roles were similar, but one thing that I did was I would try to contact people and try to encourage them to serve. And I had people tell me, I don't have time.
yeah,
Like that was one of the number one reasons people didn't want to serve, was the idea of like, if I'm serving, like you don't understand. I get 2 days off. Saturday, I got to do yard work. Like Saturday, I got to mow. I got trees that need trimming. Like I got to go play disc golf with my friends. Like I got so much to do on Saturday. Like I need one day to just chill. And they're like, I can't do it. Like, I just don't have time. What's something you would say? Because, I mean...
Jamie, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
You know, people not having time, you know, having to mow. While I'm serving, come mow my yard. My grass is growing. And, you know, it's going to sound harsh, but there is time. Because what do your priorities look like? Are you serving God in other aspects of your life? Are you getting up and praying? Are you reading your Bible? You know, we're talking about spiritual disciplines.
Yeah.
Do we not have time for those things as well?
Yeah.
You know, it sounds harsh because I used to be on the other side of this, of making excuses and saying, man, I don't have time, but I work a full-time job. And yet there's still time to serve students. We serve students. We start at 7 and we end at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's 1 hour.
Yep.
Sunday morning, most of the morning, it's like, what, 5 hours or something like that? What else are you going to do? Sleep? You can sleep when you're dead. You can sleep on your Saturday if you want. Sleep on your Saturday. Get up and serve. And that doesn't sound very encouraging, but sometimes we need to be shaken a little bit to realize, like, man, there is time. Yeah. It's just, are we saying we don't have time, or are we saying that we don't care?
That's big. That's what I think of. So there's a verse in Matthew, where Jesus is talking and he's referring to the idea of, you know, treasures. And he talks about, where are you going to store up your treasure? And he talks about, are you going to store up your treasures on earth where moths can come and eat it, where rust will destroy it? Yeah. Or are you going to store up your treasures in heaven, where they cannot be destroyed and where they'll last forever?
Yeah.
And when I'm thinking about, like, the idea, if I ask somebody, do you want treasure that is going to last for a moment and then be gone? Or do you want treasure that's going to last for eternity and always be great? I think every single person would look and say, I want the treasure that's going to last forever. Yeah. I want the treasure that's never going to run out.
Yeah.
And when we look at that and we look at, okay, how do we get these treasures? What do we do? We give back to God. Yeah. You said it best. We all have the same 24 hours. Every single person, no matter what, has 24 hours, 7 days, 365, unless it's a leap year, and then you get that 66. Like, every single one of us has the same amount of time, the same amount of days, and it's just a priority. Yeah. It's, do I care? Right. And I know for some people, you know, if you have kids, that factors into the equation. Absolutely, yeah. If you have, you know, say you live and you don't have a car, that factors into your ability to get places. If you're 10 years old and you're relying on your parents, that factors into the equation. But at the end of the day, what I've found to be true is if you really love God, if you really care about God, if you are seeking him,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to find out that he is a God that serves.
Yeah.
He is a God that came, took on flesh
Mm-hmm.
to serve mankind,
Yeah.
to pay the penalty for us. And then he looks at us and says that we are to be his example. We are to be his witnesses. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. We are to be his witnesses. And so when I think about that, like, how do we be the witness of Jesus? You got to serve.
Yeah.
Like it's baked right in. And so I think about that. Like, I think about the idea just of serving and how we should be striving to do that.
Yeah. And to add on to that, like, two things is, like, obviously life happens, right? We do get busy. We do have things that go on in our lives, like kids and jobs that maybe you work 12-hour shifts or whatever. Like, I understand that. And again, it's not a thing of like, you have to serve at church.
Yep.
And if you sign up, man, that's a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
Like, that's not at all what we should be projecting as a church or as people. Like, the bad thing is that a lot of people who grow up in this area or in the Bible Belt, like, that's kind of the mindset. Is once you sign up,
there's no getting out.
There's no getting out.
Yep.
And if you get out, we're gonna make you feel bad, or you're gonna feel bad. We're coming after you. And that's not it
at all.
Like, life happens.
Yeah.
And I think Josh, Pastor Josh, said it best. Like, if you can't right now, it's okay. So say no now, but not to forever. Or what is it?
It's a no for now.
No for now,
but not forever.
But not forever.
Yeah.
So, like, understand that. Like, okay, I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm getting burnt out. Let me slow down. Jamie, hey, man, like, I won't be able to make it to students.
Yep.
How many times have I texted you saying, hey, man, like...
Oh, at least more than 5.
More than 5, for sure. So, like, being like, hey, man, like, I can't make it. Like, there's just too much going on. I need a breather. If I go, I might cry, you know? And
take care of yourself.
But, hey, like, take care of myself, and then let me get right back into it, man.
I think about it. I mentioned this the very first episode of the spiritual disciplines. We talked about and gave a full length talk about what is a spiritual discipline. And it's the whole idea, and even serving can become like this of, are we making it a master or are we using it? Because if we're making serving the master of we have to serve.
Yeah.
And if you miss, you're terrible, or you serve and there's no end in sight. Like, you wake up and all you do is serve.
Right.
You're missing the fact that serving is just meant to be an example of who God is.
Exactly.
You're missing the fact that serving is just a way that we get to God.
That's good.
It's just a way we see him a little more.
Yeah.
It's a way we can be his example. But when you make serving the sole priority and nothing else, I think we start to miss everything.
Yep.
We start to turn that into the most important thing. And as soon as we do that with anything that's not Jesus, we've made an idol.
Yeah. And I mean, to add to that too, every time we say serve, like, church comes to mind. Okay, I have to serve in the church. If you can't serve at the church, serve in your community, man.
Exactly.
Like, if you're out and you see somebody who have a flat tire off to the side of the road, and it's, middle of the night and they can't get their tire, stop and help.
Yeah, if you notice the ability.
Yeah.
I think about, like, one thing I think of, I mean, you saying that, I love that, is yes, we love for people to serve. Like,
absolutely.
If you call REVO Church home, like, I challenge you to serve.
Absolutely.
Fill out a next step card. Serve. We want to help you use your gifts to glorify God.
Yeah.
But more than that, I think when we're talking serving, we're saying it's just, you're glorifying God with what you can do.
Yeah.
And so maybe for you, that's, you see someone on the side of the road that needs help, you stop and you help them.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's, I mean, we have a whole list of ministry partners that the church we actively serve with. We did a serve day a couple weeks ago at the rescue mission.
Yeah, that was a fun time too.
Yeah, maybe it's, man, you show up and you're serving there.
Yeah.
Maybe you get involved, like our group serves every season at King Outreach.
Oh, awesome.
King Outreach, they're a group that they're very similar to the rescue mission and their values and what they do, but they do it in King, which is a little closer to my house. It's a little closer to the people that attend my group. And so every season we go and we serve in their thrift store because, hey, we're called to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. And so I think about that. I think that's the priority is how can we just give God glory with what he's gave us?
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's speaking.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's stopping on the side of the road and saying, hey, you got a flat tire, I got a jack. Like I can do it for you. Or maybe it's
helping a family friend out, or like,
Yeah.
you know that they're struggling and stuff. Like that's something that my parents always did. Like we didn't, like I said, we didn't have a ton of money growing up, but if somebody was going hungry, we're not going to let you go hungry, man.
Exactly. We're gonna
serve you.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So like going back to the encouragement part of it, it's understanding that what Jesus did for us. Like you said, he didn't come to be served, but to serve. And he did that by dying on that cross for me. And not only did he serve the people at that time, he served me 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like sacrificing his life for somebody like me.
I've always heard the John 3:16 when you read that, for God so loved the world. I always heard take out world and insert Jamie. For God so loved Jamie, that he sent his only son.
Absolutely.
That in that sacrifice, in that serving, is the model we're supposed to have. So I just got a question as we wrap up of just, if there's people watching this that maybe they're hearing the challenge and they're like, I need to start serving. Or maybe they're like, I've been serving, but I've never really like thought about it in the lens of, it's not something I'm doing. It's the way I'm glorifying God. What would be some encouragement you would say to someone who's maybe they're thinking about serving for the first time, or maybe they've served and they stopped and they're on the fence? Like, is there any encouragement or any advice you would give them?
Yeah. I would say, man, if you have that feeling in your heart, or you're called to serve, man, come to me. I'll be in the booth at South Fork. I will be in that box in the back. You will see me. Just come up to me and say, hey, like, how do I get started serving? I'm going to look at you and be like, hey, I don't know, but I'll point you in the right direction. But no, like, come see me. If you go to South Fork, come see me, and I will challenge you to do that, and I will point you in the right direction. If you go to North, if you go to Walkertown, go see Jamie, go see Michael, go see Steven, go see somebody who you know can help point you in the right direction. Yeah. If you're somebody who is serving and you're saying like, man, like I've just been checking a box, start praying, start reading your Bible. That's where I started. And in my experience, that helped me realize the goal of what serving actually is.
I like that.
Is to glorify God. And to flip this also, to add a third person, if you're serving and you hear people saying, man, like I want to serve, go to that person and help push them. Yeah. Encourage them. Some people don't serve because they haven't been asked. And a lot of times if you go up to somebody and you know they want to serve or they want to help, but they just are too afraid to ask, or maybe just feel shy about it, go say, hey, like, would you like to check out guest services one day? Hey, would you like to like see how the sounds run? Hey, would you like to help with the student? Hey, would you help with the rescue mission? Yeah, I like that. And somebody, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, yeah, I was actually thinking about that. I just didn't know where to go. I love that. So to challenge our members to do that.
Yeah, I think when I'm thinking about, if I'm thinking about like an encouragement, or if they've never served before, my first thought is just remember what Jesus did for you. Why do I serve? Because of what Jesus did for me. Yeah. Like, honestly, I enjoy working with student ministry. I enjoy doing all these different things, but deep down, like, why do I do it? Because of what Jesus did. Yeah. Like like Jesus came and did something that I didn't deserve. And so if you're questioning, like, should I serve? Question, should Jesus have came on the cross? And then question, well, he did. And so then go back to your question and say, well, if he did, am I greater than Jesus? And the answer is no. And so, you know, first encouragement is why? Because of Jesus. And then a second encouragement is, and I truly believe this, if we're serving Jesus, if we are seeking to glorify him with our actions, our talents, our treasures, our abilities, our time, I believe God's going to bless that. Absolutely, man. I believe it. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've had times where I've been serving students and I've seen their entire life change. Students that come in that were very far from Jesus. Yeah. I had a student one time that when he first started coming was getting in the fights and like picking
Man,
fights
yeah.
with other kids,
Mm-hmm.
to then me serving and seeking him and just actively serving the student ministry, to then the kid getting saved in my kitchen.
Dude, let's go, man.
And then starting to read the Bible. And so I believe that if we're serving, if we're seeking to glorify God with our talents and our
Yeah.
abilities, I believe that God's going to bless that. And so then
Yeah.
the question becomes, did Jesus serve? Yes. Are you greater than Jesus? No. Then you should serve. And then if you
Yeah.
need one other convincing, God promises to bless it. Where are you going to store up your
Yeah.
treasure? Are you going to store it up on earth where it can get broken, or are you going to store it in heaven where moths and rust cannot touch it, and where it will last
Forever.
and forever? and so I think
Yeah.
about that. Like, if you've never served, just to ask yourself
Yeah.
the question of maybe it's worth it.
Maybe it's worth it.
Maybe
Dude,
it's worth it.
it's man, that just made me think of another thing, is like the mental stress, the depression and stuff that, I wouldn't say I've gone through, but you get down sometimes. Dude, ever since I've started serving, man, like my mind is about other people.
Yeah.
It isn't about selfish desires. And God blessed that through saying like, hey, you've been taking care of other people like I commanded you to. I'll take care of you. Don't worry. And I haven't had any kind of worries here lately, man.
Yeah,
And it's been a blessing. And that's a huge blessing for, I think, a lot of people in this time. We get stressed out and we worry about finances and, political landscape and, is there even going to be a world after this year, and when all the nukes start flying? And man, I don't even think about any of that. I'm just thinking like, all right, students, okay, I know I got to pray for so-and-so. He's going through it at school today. Hey, this guy at the rescue mission, his story is wild, and yet he's getting better and recovering and is following Christ. Holy cow. Like, that's awesome. And like, so it's a positive mindset too, man. Like, it really does change your mindset. So it's been a huge blessing. And one thing that has just been in my head is that not only did Jesus die for us, but after his resurrection, I think it's John 21, where Peter and all them were fishing all night and everything. Yep. And Jesus is pretty much just trolling them like, hey, cast your net on the, the right side. And like, they don't know that it's Jesus. Yeah. And they get ashore, and Jesus is serving them again by making them breakfast, has got a fire all laid out, and said, hey guys, come grab a plate, grab a fish, grab some bread. Let's eat together. I love that. And he served them there, knowing that, one, Peter betrayed him. All the disciples left him, and yet he still served. I love that. And that's just, dude, like, we could go on and on, man. Like, Jesus is just the example. Yeah.
That's what I love about that. And this is how we're gonna, how I want to end it. Is the idea of, you see the disciples, they are trying to do all the right things. Like, they go and they're trying to fish. John 21, they're trying to fish. They're doing what they've always done, and it's not working. Yeah. And it wasn't until they started listening to Jesus and doing what he said that they caught so many fish that their boat was sinking. I don't know if you've ever fished, but I've never caught enough fish to where my boat was sinking.
I've never even
from the weight of the fish. That's a problem. And so I think about that, and I think about serving, and I'm like, man, what would it look like if we stepped up and said, I'm going to start following Jesus? Amen. Jesus said, I came not to be served, but to serve. What if our motto said, I'm not coming to be served, but I'm coming to serve the one that gave it all? Amen. And so this has been the REVO Church Podcast. This has been episode 5 of Spiritual Disciplines. I'm so glad you decided to join us, and make sure you check out next week as we continue walking through the spiritual disciplines. See ya.